Welcome to ReReview, where we watch movies from our past with a perspective from today. Your hosts are Matt, Bobby, and Austin, and we love the films from our youth, so we're taking a look back to see if they still hold up. We have another suggested movie to watch from our friends and family list, so together we're going to re-review a Goofy movie. This is chosen by Matt's wife. A Goofy movie was released in 1995, directed by Kevin Lima, and stars Bill Farmer, Jason Marsden, and Jim Cummings. This movie is about youth and fatherhood and just relationships with your parents. And I don't know, it's way heavier than I expected. Now, this is a fair warning. We're spoiling a 28-year-old movie. So if you haven't seen it, we will be revealing key plot points. So Goofy movie is like a sequel-ish or like a take on. There was a show way back when. What did they call the Disney block that was always on in the afternoon? And they had the Goof Troop show. I forgot what that was called because it was like all the awesome was DuckTales.
Are you talking about DuckTales and Rescue Rangers?
And Tailspin, and then eventually Gargoyles was the last one because that was the dark and adult show. Right? What did they call that Disney block? I'm forgetting the name of it right now.
Oh man, I don't remember. But yeah, that was a pretty awesome time, man.
Wasn't it though? Like, wasn't it fantastic? And I watched the hell out of Goof Troop. I will fully admit, when I decided to look down the list of Disney characters that I would be fond of. Instead of being like, oh, everyone likes Mickey, I like Mickey. I chose Goofy. I chose the very broken, odd, weird, gets in all the trouble and all the mishaps character. What do you guys feel about Goofy, or how do you feel about Goofy in general?
I don't know. He was definitely not. I would never consider, or at least I wouldn't have considered him top tier Disney character back in the day.
Hateful.
I'm just saying, to be fair, I don't think I actually watched Goof Troop before I saw this movie.
Yeah, I don't think I did either too much.
So I didn't really, I don't know. To me, Goofy was always very much about the 40, like the 50s, 60s. Like I always remember him and what was the one where he was doing like the workout?
You nailed it. Yeah, that's what came to my mind as well. Yeah. But that's what I like, because I think growing up watching the Disney Channel, they would show all the classic Goofy stuff, and it was always super slapstick. Yeah, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
There was one really good short where he was like a total techie, and he bought all this technology. Like he bought a super gigantic TV that didn't even fit in his house, and it came with 5 million cables that he had to mess with. It was really good. And then, of course, they had the one where he was obsessed with cars and driving too fast.
Mm-hmm. Well, Matt, if Goofy, you said not top tier, who was your character growing up as a kid, Disney-wise?
Well, I mean, if I had to pick one from that time period, it probably would have been Darkwing Duck. Would have been my Disney character.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. God damn, Darkwing Duck was so good. Wait, so Bobby, how do you feel about Goofy? But then who was really your Disney character of choice growing up as a kid?
Oh, man, that's so hard. No, I mean, I like Goofy. Goofy's good. I mean, they didn't have the Goofy scream in this, though, which I was kind of surprised by. Didn't
we heard it? Wow! That thing.
They did have the wow.
Yeah, it was a couple times, yeah.
Yeah,
oh, they did?
Especially at the end.
Oh, okay. I guess I missed it. I was waiting for it and I missed it. What the heck?
You know, it's strange because this movie is, we're talking about the where he's in the tier list, but I can't think of a lot of other of the main Disney, characters like the Mickey Mouses and the Donald Ducks and whatnot that got their own movie like this.
Yeah.
So for him,
got one that's so heavy.
Yeah, right. Like that. I mean, they got all the cartoons and the little shorts and stuff, but he got his own movie, man. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's no Donald movie, right?
Not that I know of. Not a feature length.
I'm super curious. The development process for this movie. How on earth did this movie get made? How on earth is it major family type of story that's surrounded by Goofy?
I mean, we watched a lot of Disney stuff back in the day. They probably had enough ratings to justify it.
I mean, but if you think about it, I mean, this is in prime time, Renaissance, right? For Disney. Mm-hmm. This is Lion King and everything else around the same time.
So that means they had excess money.
There's probably that too.
I mean, do you think it's possible that it was originally a Goof Troop story? And then wow, this is really good. We could do something with this. And then maybe they thought maybe it could be a TV movie. And then made it something else. Like, I don't know.
Well, I feel like, Matt, you gave it a pretty apt description in terms of it feeling like it's a straight to VHS that happened to make it out.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like, considering the origins of it and, you know, where it came from as far as, because I mean, again, this was during the Disney Renaissance, so Disney could do no wrong as far as like the, you know, box office was concerned. This, because of the fact that it was either a sequel or based off of Goof Troop, it feels like it probably should have been a directed DVD special. The one thing I do know about this movie, because I remember watching the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary, and they were kind of talking about this movie being made around the same time as like Lion King and stuff like that. They if I remember correctly, Jeffrey Katzenberg kind of had like a similar road trip with his daughter at the time. And so like him being in charge of, you know, everything, I'm sure he needed to he probably wanted to shoehorn that into something. And I don't know if it really fit into like Lion King or anything like that. So maybe he saw an opportunity to kind of put that
Tell a
kind
road
of
trip story.
Yeah, road trip, you know, parent-child bonding story into something, and then probably happened to see on the production schedule, oh, we're making a Goofy movie about Max and Goofy, and there we go. And that probably, I'm sure that probably helped the budget, probably. So
yeah, it's one of those where we're getting into really the tale that this movie is. And what kind of started the introduction? I mean, we meet Max, we meet Goofy in just you know, Max is having a dream about the woman he's pining after, and Goofy kind of comes into the picture. And I thought it was interesting because we're looking at this character that we know as being kind of, well, quirky and odd, and they have him dressed in like a full towel with like as if his hair was up, and because he's vacuuming. I'm like, huh, what an interesting type message to send.
He had like his hair, the like head wrap towel. That was funny.
I mean, he's a single parent, right? I mean, that's kind of an interesting aspect of, you know, a Disney movie, if you really think about it, that you have Goofy being a single dad and taking on both, you know, both roles, raising a kid. So,
and that's probably all they were really trying to show, right? That he is that.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, and I kind of feel like they kind of did that a couple times throughout this, where they, you know, weren't trying to. There was a lot of cliche, typical stuff, especially like with the school, like the jocks and the nerds, and you know, the mall crowd and everything like that. But I feel like with
the
Goofy,
Star Trek kids,
the characters I definitely related to it the most watching this. So I feel like with Goofy, they're trying to, you know, he definitely kind of blurs the line of, you know, parental roles, traditional parental roles, especially 95. That's kind of a little bit ahead of its time.
I agree. I think we can ask the hard-hitting questions, Bobby. Where's Max's mom?
Dead.
Oh, dang.
He went for it. He went for it.
Always dead in a movie. If it's a single dude raising a kid, the mother is always dead. If it's a woman raising a single woman raising a family, it could be any reason.
This might be the end of our podcast right here.
The dad went
the
out
rage
for
comments
cigarettes
typing
and
below
didn't come back. You know,
Bobby's like, there are no divorced dads. There's only dead wives. We're either talking about a Goofy movie or Forensic Files, apparently.
Goofy's wife.
Oh no, I mean,
dead,
hey, it's the hard hitting question, and I think we're all wondering it because we're looking at this relationship between Goofy and Max, and it's that's the reason I'm saying it's heavy is because we're dealing with like serious inability for two you know, a parent and child to communicate with each other.
They're recovering from trauma because she's dead.
Okay, Bobby.
All right, we'll just leave that pause in there to recognize the weight of that comment. You know, it's so important when you're young, right? To kind of you find your first love, right, and the person you're attracted to, and you want to give a good impression to that person. And Max is definitely wholeheartedly going for that, ignoring the fact that she just likes him as he is. Goofy is I'll say misled by Pete, right? His quote unquote friend. Is he his boss in this? Because he's typically like his boss, right?
I had this question going into this because my impression of him as a character would have been he was probably definitely his boss. But and especially since he rolls up in that massive RV, I'm like, ain't no photographer working at Kmart rolling with an RV like that.
It's a very good RV.
So, I mean, I guess he must have been. He kind of seems like the type that would weasel his way up into upper management.
He obviously he was there to contrast against what a loving relationship isn't, which again was what makes this movie feel so heavy, because they show a dynamic of a father and son where the father just treats his son like crap.
I mean, like you said, I think it's kind of there as like a mirror reflection, right, of Goofy and Max's relationship, seeing one that is kind of based around fear. And a very forceful hand when it comes to parenting. Again, I don't know where PJ's mom is either, so it's just a bunch of single dads in this movie.
Let me tell you where she is.
God.
Oh no.
Oh man.
Wait, is Roxanne's dad also?
Oh no. Single dad. There's so many.
I don't know that I can handle this.
Was Jeffrey Katzenberg a single dad? Is that what this was? Was he just projecting?
Oh no.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even put that piece together that we could just be, it's a whole movie of single dads and the trauma that they're dealing with their kids. Oh my God. So we have Max, who's obsessed with Roxanne to an extent. And he thinks he can impress her by putting on some show with his AV nerd friend who is uncredited in the film. Good old Pauly Shore. I think there's that element of, especially when you're young, you do stupid things when you're into people. And ultimately, this entire movie is Max wanting to do stupid things because he's into a girl and not understanding that his dad just wants to connect with him.
I think that's actually, when you really look at the movie, it's definitely the relationship of parents with their kids, and then a love story, a teenage high school love story, and how those two elements play off each other. Because I mean, like most movies, how much of this movie wouldn't have taken place if a conversation was just had, right? An honest, direct conversation.
Yeah. No, I loved how you said that Goofy was so interested in his son's well-being that had his son just come out to him straight up and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in this girl. I'd really like to try to impress her by going to this concert in LA." He probably would have just been like, "Yeah, sure, let's go."
I think, I mean, you're giving Goofy credit, but if your kid did that to you, you're like, you want to drive across the country to get you into a concert and I have to get you on stage? What?
Well, I mean, they were already driving across the country, going to all these crazy places.
But I think you hit on a key part, and this is one of my notes. I just wrote down, don't lie to people. Like, why is Max a liar? Couldn't Goofy raise him better?
Apparently not.
He thinks he wasn't good enough. He had his dream in the beginning of the movie. He doesn't want to be his father, for one thing, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was thinking too. It very much was, he's afraid of where he's going. And I mean, Max very much is trying to be, I mean, you saw his room. He had like a gajillion posters of Powerline. He had posters of like dudes who were like super ripped and stuff like that. And like, he has a very cool image of what he thinks he wants to be. And then every day he sees his dad and he's like, that's what I'm be, because what was it? Like his Goofy had said, you look just like me at that age. And he's like, don't say that.
Right.
So he's battling against probably an inevitable future, right? So everything he's doing is trying to fight against that.
I think that's the heaviness that gets to me, thinking of like being in your youth and the way you treat your parents, but then sometimes how parents treat their kids. That's what we have the other thing going on. I think I'll go with the next hard-hitting question, and this one's for Matt. Are they all dogs?
So I've had this question with my wife about the state of animals in Disney properties. So a lot of them are obvious. You have Mickey Mouse, You have, Chip and Dale. You like very obvious, you even have like Robin Hood, like very clearly a fox. When it comes to Goofy, he clearly is supposed to be a dog, but Pluto exists in the same universe,
Right.
who is actually a dog who does not stand on his feet or talk or have incredibly high intelligence enough to, drive cars or anything like that. So I don't know, is it like an off branch of dogs that have evolved? And like some of them don't even look like some of them clearly do. Like Goofy arguably very much looks like, I don't know, like what, a beagle or something like that. But in Roxanne's dad was very much like a bulldog. But then some of them just look like people with like black noses, basically.
Right? We're definitely getting into like design choices here, but there was that element of, as you started seeing all the characters, I was like, wait, what are they? Who are the dogs here and who are not? I think you said some of them look like moles. Maybe it's just all mole people.
Well, and then, in this universe, obviously Bigfoot exists. So
can we talk about Bigfoot?
Yes, we can talk about Bigfoot.
So we encounter Bigfoot. He catches him after doing the perfect cast, the most epic fishing cast ever known to dog kind. I was going to say mankind, but it's dog kind. And it's a gag. He catches a steak from Pete's Grill, and he ends up catching Bigfoot. But what was interesting is they pull Bigfoot out of the water. Their reactions to Bigfoot was definitely oh, look, it's Bigfoot. Like the expected result of him being there and actually being a creature that exists in the universe. I was like, oh, I think they're more okay with it than I am. But one of the things I wrote down in terms of the Bigfoot as a character is I said specifically, I wish I had Bigfoot's joy, because Bigfoot as a character legitimately, even though he was like chasing them in anger, he never really was. And he was just like, I want to play with stuff and sleep on the car and everything is fine. And I loved everything about Bigfoot.
Can we call him a party animal, or is that a little bit too
that's
much?
good. No, that's good. That's actually really, really, really good. So they go on this journey and they're going across the country, and we purposely, obviously, they go through multiple ups and downs of like, first Max is unhappy because they're doing very Goofy related things. Goofy is trying to, put too much on him to open it up. They go to the possum farm, whatever it is, and get a hat that I definitely want someday, a dead possum to wear on my head. But as they move through, they try to build a connection up where there's trust. Max is given the authority to rule the map and where they're going to go. Then eventually the trust is broken down again because Pete comes into the picture like the bad devil man that he is, to remind him that Max has ulterior motives. And they kind of walk us through all this. And it just is one of these things where I think, again, them showing this parent-child relationship. One of my notes I wrote down is how like parents have their expectations for their kids, and when the kids don't line up with it, they did to me a good job of showing Goofy like having his heart broken at points in time, to be like, why can't my kid just kind of understand where I'm coming from, that I just want to be with you and build a relationship with you. And I think one of the key parts is when they were under Bigfoot and they're in the car and they're talking about the Hi Dad soup. And then Goofy finishes with like an I love you. And then they both get really awkward with each other, as if this was something that they used to say to each other and now they no longer do.
Right.
I'm sitting here like, this is a kid's movie? Like, holy crap, that is just too much and too heavy.
I can see that. I mean, obviously one of us on this is a parent, so it'd be an interesting thing to hear from said person on the, I mean, I could very much see in like, in a slightly more adult version or a live action thing that we're watching or whatever, that like at some point you would see like a little montage of Max growing up, right? And seeing all those moments of, riding his first bike and, learning to walk and all this kind of different stuff, and just seeing, the progression of Max getting to the age where, he's too good to, be around Goofy, right? He's too cool to be around Goofy. And I guess I can kind of relate a little bit to the Max point of view on, you get to that age where like you're kind of embarrassed, right? Even for normal parents, you get embarrassed
Right.
I can't even imagine, having Goofy as a father and then having to deal with that in high school when everything's already a tornado of emotions and hormones and everything else, right?
As we sit patiently for the person
For the
who
parent
shall
to
not be
answer,
named to
right.
speak.
There were times in this movie that I kind of thought like I was kind of mentally preparing. Like I thought like, okay, like this movie is going to break me, like I thought like I know what's coming, and I thought like, okay, this is really going to bother me here. For some reason it didn't. But I mean, I really love the fact that Goofy just really wanted to connect with his son. And I really loved that
Yeah.
this movie really took this very, very wholesome angle where like it could have been just like he's just dim-witted and he's just like, I'm just here and things happen to me. And I think a less smart movie could have tried to do all that kind of stuff. And they did acknowledge, like he said, look, Goofy, you're not super, super smart. And he's like, yeah, that's okay. I'm not offended. But they still took on the wholesome thing of he just wants to do right by his son. And I can get behind that. And I think that if you have a movie where there's kind of a gap in a relationship and they want to close that gap, I think that they did all the right things in this movie. And I like that a lot about this movie.
Yeah, it's hard not to appreciate what you see in terms of Goofy just having that, at least the ideal of a kind of pure love for his kid. I mean, it's just, it's one that's, would be interesting to get your feedback if you were to watch this with your kid and get a different perspective of how they interpret it. But probably don't want to encourage any ideas as well in terms of rebellion if you haven't had it yet.
Yeah, not yet. So probably we'll wait a little bit before we watch
But
it. But
one of the pieces that you mentioned there is in terms of like Goofy not admitting the smart piece. They were singing to each other on top of a floating car. What model car was this that floats?
The indestructible, destructible car.
That car went through a lot, and this was all on their big journey because they had some highs. He took them to the House of Yarn on his own, but they also went to like monster truck rallies and kind of pivoted off of each other from that, and eventually again crashed because Max was taking him to LA and not to what was the lakes called again that they were supposed to go to?
Ooh.
Not LA. How's that?
Not Lake
something.
Lake something.
Yeah.
Max forces towards LA. Eventually the truth comes out of what they want to do, and we get another perfect cast because they save each other from a death-defying waterfall. But they make it to this concert, and Goofy sneaks them in like the music, the drum crate and the guitar crate.
Why were those being delivered so late? The concert had already begun.
The concert is all. So they get backstage and shenanigans ensue, and they eventually get on there, and Max gets to get his goal of being on camera for Roxanne and impressing everyone. But I do want to ask you, Powerline was a very key part early in the movie in terms of the music and what was done. I think this could kind of be an overall question. Powerline, very much a 80s, early 90s pop star, a mix of many different artists. I think we can tell. How do we feel in terms overall about this actually being a musical?
So I think there's two different parts to it. I think there's actually musical stuff as far as like Goofy and Max and everyone else kind of singing, and then they had the Powerline stuff. And the musical stuff, for the most part, I think I can't remember the name, but the number at the very beginning where they're singing about school and everything was really solid. I really enjoyed that. Even the reprise that they had was really good.
It has a line that I loved. I wish that this was the day after today.
Oh, I love that line. That is a good line.
I thought there was going to be more of that.
Like the singing, you mean?
Yeah, they just kind of like dropped it for a good while.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of here and there. I think that the opening number is probably the best number by and far. But all of the Powerline stuff, like I love the Powerline stuff. Like the older I get and the more I listen to it, anytime I hear it now, like I was Eye to Eye and was it not Stand By Me, but something like that. But though, like,
because he's basically Bobby Brown, right?
it's kind of a mixture because like it was an actual artist, right, that was doing the singing. I feel like I saw him at a convention once. Like he actually did like
really?
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
he did like a live performance of like the songs.
Wow.
So
That's actually pretty cool.
like is an actual artist, but yeah, very much was like a mixture of, Bobby Brown, Prince, like all those
Mhm.
different, artists that are kind of like in the same vein as that. The what Max called him, like the biggest rock star ever or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I kind of want to go to that concert. That was a pretty high energy
Right.
concert.
Right.
That'd be worth the ticket price.
Until you saw the ticket price.
Right.
He gets the goal. He gets to be on stage, and then he goes back home, and his dad Goofy challenges him to be honest with Roxanne. So Bobby, when he breaks down and tells her that he lied, how did you feel about how quickly she moved on from that lie?
No, that's a good question. It was so fast. And I mean, I understand that that's where we knew we were all going to get to. And so why belabor it? But it just happened so fast. And it happened so fast that I wonder to myself, like, what else could they have done here to make this different? Because it just seemed like they were like, okay, we know that she is going to accept this. So how can we just speed by this real quick?
It was so quick. It was like you lied to me. I liked you anyways. And then like, oh, let's go out tonight. It actually was more suggestive than that. It was like, what are you doing tonight, big boy?
Yikes.
Was it more like, because at the end of the day, like he did fulfill the lie.
Mm-hmm.
And
wait, he still lied.
Yeah, he did, but
did she know he was lying the whole time, or
no,
I don't think that's not the situation.
No, I think that it was one, she already liked him quite a bit going into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like the lie was like he stood her up or something like that, right? And it turned out he was actually hanging out with the buds or something,
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't anything along those lines. It was he lied about something to try to impress her and then actually did the thing to impress her.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did, at least because he could have not. He could have totally just kept the lie up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Goofy told him to be honest, but he could have kept lying and told Goofy he said the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, the integrity issue that we're just coming up with there. Max is just a habitual liar.
I mean, it kind of came out that way.
So my question is, what would have been the case if they tried to get to the concert but didn't actually make it on stage or something?
Like what version of movie would that have been like?
Yeah, like I wonder, like if that would have been the case. If I think that would have made it a more like sincere situation. Like instead of saying like, "Hey, I did what I said what I was going to do," but the whole like point of getting there was a lie, as opposed to just like, "Hey, look, I lied about it. I'm not a."
I can see that version where he comes to terms with the fact that he wasn't going to be able to fulfill the lie, and then having to kind of fess up to that version of it.
Mm-hmm.
I can see having not this situation, but gone through something kind of similar with, a parent growing up. You can kind of see it from the point of view of like Goofy really wanted to help his son out, right? He was like, let's go to that concert. Max was ready to call it quits when they were after the waterfall sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Goofy was like, let's go. Let's go make that lie real.
So to you, like
Mhm.
getting on the stage and doing all that stuff was more about Goofy's dedication to making his son's dream, so to speak, come true than anything else.
I could see it that way. I mean, like I said, he's the one who kept like Goofy was the one who kept saying, "Let's do this." You know,
Mhm.
I mean, before
Mhm.
Max saw the girls walk by, and then he was all on board
Right.
all of a sudden. But yeah, no, I think it's fine the way it is, but I can see the version you're talking about being good too. Because I mean, I the question I had at the end is like, did they ever go fishing?
Mhm.
They only caught a Bigfoot.
Not a bad catch.
No, it's not 3 pounds.
I mean, I guess Max caught a fish with his toe, and Goof
Right.
caught that big
Yeah.
fish with his leg. So
I think the version you're talking about, it would add another to what 10 minutes to the film. So there's already a strike against that idea, but it might be a little bit darker as well because we already have the parent-child trauma relationship we're dealing with, and then to tack on the "I'm a liar, I don't want to see you, but maybe I do want to be in love with you" part of the love story on top of it, it would be a much longer film.
Yeah, that's not really what I want.
I know.
I
You're like,
like
the
the
time is too long.
runtime.
Well, I think it's the time we ask the question we always do. Bobby, are you recommending a Goofy movie?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Watch it. I mean, it's surprisingly good. I mean, if you haven't heard about it, it's really good. I mean, it's got a lot more layers than you would think for a movie called The Goofy Movie. So I say check it out.
We'll take layers. I like layers. Matt?
I definitely think that it's a movie worth watching. I think that amongst the other Disney Renaissance movies, it tends to kind of get forgotten. I think that now, as the generation who grew up and saw this movie as kids are getting older, I'm personally seeing kind of a resurgence of interest. Like I was at the Target and I saw a Paraline shirt. So I
Mhm.
think that it's starting to kind of see like a resurgence in the pop culture scene. If you didn't grow up with it, I think that's still worth watching. If for nothing else, it's a nice tale of parents and kids and road trips and Bigfoot. So I definitely think that it's, at least worth watch if you haven't seen it. If you have, then, you know, take a listen, it's worth watching.
Yeah, I think the key here is understanding that, as you both mentioned, Goofy not being a top tier Disney character, this is one probably a lot of people passed on. And because of all the other movies that were out at the same time from that Disney Renaissance perspective, I absolutely think it's worth watching. I think you'll be surprised from the perspectives that are presented, and especially just trying to treat and tackle something as important as a parent-child relationship. I know it's done in other films in different ways, but this feels, I'm almost going to say, the most human, uh, even though it's
The
dogs
most
or
dog.
moles, half dogs, half moles. So I think I'm in the exact same boat that for me it's worth watching, and there's some heavy parts, there's some funny parts, they got some good gags in there, as they should, because it is a Goofy movie. So yes, 100%, I think we're all in the same boat recommending this one. So as always, thank you for listening, and don't forget this really important parenting advice: if you keep them under your thumb, they'll never end up in the gutter.